Welcome back. Now, stronger than expected revenue collection saves the day, easing some of government's budgetary pressures. This is thanks to a surge in company profits and higher consumer spend, as detailed in Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's medium-term budget policy statement. It also highlights the strength and the role of the private sector in driving the local economy. Khulekani, Mathe, CEO of Business Unity South Africa, joins us now with his take on the mini budgets. Khulekani, thank you so much for joining us on Business Lunch just after 12. Good to chat to you. I mean, overall, this seems to be a very good story. Another surplus, I think that's 3 now. What's your take?
Good afternoon, and indeed, it is a positive budget in the sense that we're beginning to see a government that is reining in spending. Now, someone might say, well, if you look at the debt to GDP ratio, it has ticked up. This is understandable in the context of the earlier debates around raising VAT, which was subsequently withdrawn. So clearly, if you don't raise taxes, you're going to borrow more. So that uptick on the debt to GDP number is simply a reflection of that. But on the whole, it looks like government is reining in spending, which is a really, really important thing in the context of the kind of debt levels that we face. And of course, there are other positive things about this budget. I mean, there is a small amount, 6.7 billion rand, that has been collected from looking at the expenditure reviews that have been done. There are other small gains, in particular, the better than expected outcome from a revenue point of view. So all of those, while they don't shoot the lights out, but they point to a positive trajectory, which is why we think it is a positive MTBPS.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you go back several months, at one point they wanted to increase VAT. And we had this government of national unity that just said, no, we're not going to do this. And they were fighting and all the rest. Now we have a different outcome. Something I would like to raise with you, though, this new inflation target, 3%. Now, we've been chasing between 3 and 6%. Sometimes we were there, sometimes we were not. But now 3% with 1% error in either way. What are your thoughts on that?
You can just see that it wasn't an easy decision. Because although they landed on 1%, but there must have been a strong view that said, well, you need to allow a wiggle room should there be some shock. So I'm not surprised by that and the wording that we saw there. But, you know, this lowering the inflation target is actually a very positive thing because it will lower the cost overall in the economy. If you think about it, everything is inflation linked. All manner of increases, whether it is adjustments to rental contracts, whether it is wages and all of that, it's always indexed to inflation. Now, having a lower inflation does mean that a whole range of costs are going to come down, including, of course, the cost of capital will also come down as a consequence of this. So we think this is a positive thing. And of course, the question might be, is it feasible? Is it achievable? Well, I mean, the timing is actually great because we are currently in a very low inflation environment. And it simply means that we must implement measures to keep inflation to the levels it's at currently. It would have been harder and more painful to try and pull down inflation from, let's say, the top end of the previous band, 6% to 3%. It would have been harder. But here we're simply talking about making sure that it does not escape from where it is currently.
I'm just liking the fact that our finance minister and our Reserve Bank governor are talking now with one voice. There were reports that one of them was caught a little bit off guard. So that is good news, it really is. Maybe a ratings upgrade or uptick next week. S&P Global, we're off the grey list, seem to be giving us the thumbs up as well. Busa must be welcoming this.
It certainly is a welcome development because these are news that kind of indicate that South Africa, the South African government, is really committed to cleaning its act up. In the first instance, by getting us off the FATF grey list, and now in reining in spending and making sure that there is credibility in the numbers that we presented with, something that has always been a concern. But of particular importance here is that there is now a projected reduction in the deficit from like 4-point-something% down to 2.7. In other words, this is the amount of borrowing that we have to do because of a shortfall in revenues. So all of this is positive, but it's all predicated on whether you actually get the projected levels of growth that is going to generate the revenues. So ultimately, we need to focus our attention on measures that drive growth, because only then do these become a reality, all of these projections.
Yeah, I mean, how do we get beyond 1%? I mean, 1%, we can't, we've got to get 3%. We've got to get beyond that. China can do it. The US can do it. We, South Africa, we can do it.
I agree with you. We can do it. And we certainly should aim for growth that is higher than 1%, because that does mean that when we achieve that, obviously, not only do we generate more revenues, but we employ more people, and the overall well-being of citizens and income per capita, all of those improve when we start to grow at levels above where we are currently. Now, of course, there are measures that the minister talked about that are meant to drive growth on infrastructure investment. We agree with it. We need to aggressively invest in infrastructure. We also need to undertake those reforms in Operation Vulindlela, because they are our ticket out of the situation that we're in.
I love what you've just said. They are our ticket out of here, but it's good news. It's good news to watch as well and to see yesterday with our Finance Minister. Khulekani, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time this lunch hour. Thank you so much. That was Khulekani Mathe, CEO of Business Unity South Africa.